Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Watches TV, where I watch all the TV shows, I watch all the true crime TV shows, I watch all the reality TV shows, I watch all the trending TV shows on Netflix and Apple and Paramount and Peacock and HBO Max and everywhere. I watch all the shows, and I have recently started adding some movies over here as well. Now, a lot of people have been asking me why I haven't been covering Big Brother and why I haven't been covering this and haven't been covering that. You guys, I literally have like 20 videos to make over here, all the way back from the first season of Daryl Dixon to the Real Housewives of Orange County to Jax Taylor and Brittany Cartwright being divorced to Taken Together, the true crime documentary. And I know that people are loving the true crime over here, and I really appreciate it. People seem to really enjoy when I did the 7M TikTok series and the Lacey Peterson, Scott Peterson documentaries that I covered. And I love watching true crime. Any new true crime or any true crime that you list in the comment section below, I will cover over here. Currently, I have on my list that I've already watched to cover. I have At Wit's End, Taken Together, Lost Women of Highway 20, Cropsey, The Jinx 2. Those are the 5 that I have watched that I have not covered over here. I also just watched the other night. It was called Faking It, the Grinder Killer Scandal. It was 45 minutes. I may cover that as well if anybody wants to hear about it. I love watching true crime. So all the true crime I will be covering over here as well. So if you love true crime, please subscribe to this channel. If you like having conversations about TV shows, please subscribe to this channel as well. And like these videos, I really would appreciate it. I just love to talk about TV and anything that I'm watching. I don't watch as many movies anymore because I love to watch TV shows. And of course, I'm currently binge watching Sister Wives. Last night I finished season 12, so I will be doing an update on my Sister Wives 10, 11, and 12 here very soon. I'm trying to get it done before September 15th when the new season of Sister Wives comes out. But this weekend I wanted to do something, watch something different because it was kind of cold outside one night, and so like we had 2 nights in a row where it was like colder in Indiana and the leaves were blowing and it was rainy. And so one night I watched The Watchers, that I believe is on Max, and it's with Dakota Fanning, and I will be doing that review over here as well. I was really impressed with it. I will tell you that I thought it would make a better TV series than it would a movie, but I thought it was pretty well done. But I had also had on my list the Deliverance, which just came out on Netflix, and it's trending #1 on movies right now. And I was really excited to watch this. I thought that my husband would want to watch it. We used to watch a lot of scary movies together. My husband does not love scary movies as much as he used to. So I asked him, I said, do you want to watch this? He was like, no, you can watch it on your own. So I, that night, watched The Deliverance. I was completely blown away. I will tell you that the majority of the reviews that I have seen online are that people are saying that they absolutely love it. I have seen a few where people are like, I thought the end was silly. I didn't really like the end. I thought the whole thing was fantastically done. Absolutely fantastically done. And I was talking to my friend on the phone about this the other night. I really think, and she was like, does Netflix get nominated for Oscars these days? And I was like, oh yeah. I really actually think we're going to see some Oscar contenders come out of this movie. I thought it was really that well done. And the 3 main stars that are in it, which are Andra Day plays Ebony, which is the lead. And I had only known of Andra Day's music. She was unbelievable in this movie. She was so fantastic. And her mother is played by Glenn Close, who, when I think back on the last couple of movies that I've seen of Glenn Close, where The Wife, where she was up for an Academy Award, and then Hillbilly Elegy that she was fantastic in, and then now this. I mean, you're talking about 3 diverse roles, and you go back all the way to, you know, Fatal Attraction when Glenn Close started, and The Big Chill, and things like that. I mean, I have watched Glenn Close her entire career, and every role that she does, she is completely different. And my friend was saying to me on the phone, she's like, you know, the one thing about Glenn Close is that she does not care how she looks on camera as long as she authentically portrays the character. Like, and she is such an unbelievable actress. It's weird because she's been nominated for, you know, so many awards through the years, and has never won. I think this might be the award that she wins Best Supporting Actress over. I really do think there's going to be some Oscar nods to this. And then Monique, who nobody will hire in Hollywood except for Lee Daniels. And Lee Daniels directed Precious, which she won an Academy Award for, and then he cast her in this. What's interesting about Monique's character is that in Precious, she played an abusive mother, and in this, she plays a child care worker. So I watched the movie. So the movie just came out, and it came out on Netflix, and it's called The Deliverance. It's it's in the category of horror suspense, and it came out August 16th of 2024. Let me read you the synopsis. It says, a family living in a home in Indiana discovers strange demonic occurrences that convince them and the community that the house is a portal to hell. So what it is about is, it's about this mother that's really, really struggling. And she is like paycheck to paycheck. She's not making any money. She and her husband are separated. He is in the war currently, or he's, you know, he's he's in, I think, in Afghanistan at the time that this is going on, and then been deployed. And so he's sending money to the kids, but he's not sending any money to her, and they're like on the outs. She has a severe drinking problem, and the kids are like, the childcare worker is involved because there's been, you know, situations of abuse in the past and things like that with the kids. And so the kids are really frustrated with the mom because she can't pay the bills. They never have any money. And so she's moved her mother in, which is played by Glenn Close, and her mother has cancer and is getting chemotherapy, and she finds out that Ebony, played by Andra Day, is paying for the chemotherapy because Medicare stopped paying for it and things like that. So it's about this very poor family, and they are really having a hard time, you know, making ends meet. I will tell you, the first hour of the movie has literally nothing to do with demonic possession whatsoever. It is really just building the story of this family, of this mother that has a lot of issues going on in her life, and on top of that is has, you know, alcoholic tendencies and is abusive to her kids and things like that. And then the mother that has had a very similar history with her daughter, and played by Glenn Close, and is now like reformed Christian and kind of like stands back and kind of like passes judgment, but it's very protective of her grandkids as well. And then the childcare worker that is played by Monique, who comes in. Well, what happens is that the kids slowly start being possessed, and then it is about demonic possession, and her, like, they slowly kind of start figuring it out over time. Okay, so I just have to tell you, and I don't want to ruin this for anybody that hasn't watched this movie, I thought, for Lee Daniels, that hasn't done like a lot of horror movies, I thought the special effects were fantastically done. There's a scene at the end of the movie where the youngest son is the one, Dre is the youngest one that is possessed the most. And he is like, they are doing this, it's not called an exorcism, it's called the Deliverance. And it's something different. In the real story, which I didn't even know there was a real story until I was like looking this up while I was watching it. I think on a vlog, I had read it up and it said something like, is this based on a true story? So this is kind of a weird crossover in just a second. But I didn't really know. But in the true story, he was the one that was the most possessed. But anyway, so at the very end, it wasn't, in the real story, it was a Catholic priest that did the exorcism. In the movie, it's called the Deliverance, and the difference is that it has to do with Jesus Christ. And so they explain the whole difference between an exorcism and a deliverance in the movie. But in the movie, like, they strap him to a chair and they're putting holy water on him and things like that, and he turns into her dead mother, Glenn Close. And, I mean, there are some fantastically written lines in this. The dialogue in this movie is unbelievable. And so it's really about Andra Day's character, Ebony, finding her own empowerment, speaking in tongues. She gets the Holy Ghost and starts speaking in tongues and, like, vanishes this entity, and then they leave the house and things like that. So when I got done with this movie, to be honest with you, I was just blown away. And in all honesty, I really loved the character development of the first hour more than I loved the story about the demonic possession. I thought the demonic possession was handled very, very well. I thought the story was told very well. But the story is really about the family. It's really about the characters. It's really not even so much about the demonic possession. I mean, that's what it's getting hyped up for. But it's so fantastically done, and I literally just talked about this in my last video that I did, where I compared the movie Longlegs to Silence of the Lambs, and I said the difference between the two movies was the characterization and the building of the characters and the investment that you have in the characters. I was definitely invested in the characters in this movie. There is a scene between Andra Day and Monique where Ebony and the childcare worker, where Ebony makes a statement to, I think her name is Cynthia, the childcare worker, and she says, if you had any kids, you would understand what I'm going through. And Monique turns to her and she says to her, she tells her the story of her son that passed away. It is such a profound scene. And I mean, there are Oscar moments in this movie. I was literally just mesmerized. I really didn't expect this. I was like, Glenn Close is in a horror movie. Like, it didn't really kind of surprise me so much that Andra Day and Monique were. The song at the end is by Andra Day. It's fantastic. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love all of her music. But I don't know why that didn't surprise me, but it kind of surprised me that Glenn Close was in a horror movie. It is so much more than a horror movie. Do not miss this. This movie is fantastically done. Well, when I was like towards the end of it, I thought I remembered, like, on my vlog looking it up and seeing that it was based on a true story. And I'm like, what true story is this based on? So I start Google searching it. Now, I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, okay? I've heard of this story, like, I mean, for, like, the last 10 years since I think it happened in 2015, so, like, the last 9 years. So the story is about LaToya Ammons and her family that are from Gary, Indiana. And so I start watching all these documentaries, and I'm like, wait, didn't Zach Bagans do an entire documentary about it? Zach Bagans did an entire documentary that's on Tubi right now that's called Demon House, that I can remember back in the day when I talked about wanting to watch this documentary. People would be like, it is so scary. You don't want to watch it alone. It is horrific to watch by yourself. And people said if you watch it, then like demons will possess you and things like that. And in there, he does a full documentary. Zach Bagans buys the house that the possession happened. He buys it for $35,000. He ends up doing this whole paranormal investigation in it, and he demolishes the house, and the only thing he takes is the staircase to the basement and the dirt, which is so weird because several years ago, I was in Las Vegas. I just was in Las Vegas, but several years ago, we were there for our friend Jason's birthday, and at the very beginning of the trip, my friends Melissa and I, and our friends Aaron and Eric, because Melissa and Aaron do a lot of paranormal investigations, we went to Zach Bagans' museum. At that museum, I don't really remember seeing it. Zach Bagans supposedly has the staircase and the dirt from this house at the museum. So I must have seen it because we went to every room in the house. I don't really remember it, to be honest with you. But I ended up watching this documentary called Demon House. Like I said, it's for free on Tubi right now. You can watch it. It's a documentary. It's like an hour and a half. I thought it was kind of corny, if you want to know the truth. I thought, like, Zach Bagans always hypes everything up. The Baumeister case, which is something that I have covered heavily, the Fox Hollow Farms, which is also, I covered that heavily on my Peter Mon channel. It's a case that I've been, like, intertwined with since it happened in 1996. I've been, like, closely aligned with that case, and so it's something I've gone out there. I did a paranormal investigation. Zach Bagans also covered it. I was not impressed with how Zach Bagans covered that. Zach Bagans, I love the museum. It was fine. I didn't think it was very paranormal. I wasn't scared at all, really, in the museum a couple times, but not really. Zach Bagans is not somebody, and I mean, my friends love him, so it is what it is, but I've never, like, I always feel like he over-exaggerates stuff, and so when I watched the documentary, it felt like he was hyping all this kind of stuff up. There's a moment at the very end where he locks himself in the house overnight, and he's on the bed, and this camera comes out, and you see a shadow go by. But it could have, like, been made that way. One of his crew people goes, like, crazy, and it's, like, a lot of, like, the doctor that comes there and checks out the house, he has a lot of medical problems. And I do believe in that stuff. This is the thing. I totally believe in demonic possession, okay? I believe in all of this stuff. So it's not a stretch for me that everything that could be shown in the show is absolutely 100% real. He gets very, very angry at one point at one of his crew members, and he acts like the entity from the home. There's the most convincing part of it is that he has the old tenants of the house before LaToya Ammons comes in. He has them come in, and some horrific stuff happens with them. That was probably the most convincing thing, because when they come in, they're like, we don't really remember anything. Somebody says, like, a couple things happened while they lived there to her brother and things like that. Her brother lived in the basement, and then he ended up, like, being murdered and things like that. I mean, so other horrific things happen after they're in the house. But that was pretty much the most convincing thing to me. But what was interesting was, okay, LaToya Ammons and her mother have done numerous interviews about this. I went back and I watched them on YouTube that night, and they tell the story. There's a scene in the movie where Cynthia, played by Monique, is in the hospital, and the boy gets out of his straps and walks up the hospital, the wall, sideways in the room, okay, like backwards and up the side of the wall. That happened in true life, allegedly, and was documented not only by the childcare worker that left being a childcare worker because she just was so blown out by this case, but it was also documented by the child psychologist. They both documented that this kid walked up backwards a wall by himself, an 8-year-old kid, a 9-year-old kid. So that was documented in real life. Zach Bagans goes to interview LaToya Ammons and her mother, and they don't want anything with anybody that has anything to do with the house. In fact, her brother comes out and he does an interview with Zach Bagans, and they won't let him back into the house after he does the interview with Zach Bagans because they don't want any connection with the house whatsoever. They moved to Indianapolis. They're done with it. But they did do a round of tours. What's interesting is going back and watching the documentary. What's interesting is that this movie, which Lee Daniels, I read the article about him, and he also said that he didn't really want to interact with LaToya Ammons a lot and her mother. I think he talked to them twice before he did the movie, but he didn't want to interact with them a whole lot. He just wanted to base it off the facts of the story because he didn't want it to be an exact representation of the story, which it's not. When you watch it, things that happen in the movie, like the mother passes away, she's killed by the entity. The things that happen in the movie are not exact to what happens. The characters are not exact to, like LaToya Ammons' mother is black in the movie. She's white. She's played by Glenn Close. Lee Daniels explains that that was very divisive, why he did that. There was a reason why he chose Glenn Close to be the mother in the story. So there's a lot that's changed about the story, but there's a lot that's very, very similar with it as well. What's interesting is when I went back and I watched the interviews, the interview of the Catholic priest that did the exorcism on the house. He never did the exorcism on the boy, but he did the exorcism on the house. And the other people that were involved in it, child care worker, when LaToya Ammons and her mother are interviewed, nobody believes them. Like when you watch them, the newscasters are like, they don't believe it at all. Like none of the newscasters. I mean, this was a story that was picked up internationally. It was a huge story. They were saying it was going to be the next Amityville. And it's so interesting that like they just like picked up their family and moved 3 hours south to Indianapolis and have never looked back and don't publicly speak about it to this day and don't really want to publicly speak about it to this day, which to me gives the story complete validity. I mean, they could have written, you know, multiple books. So, I mean, I think they did sell their movie rights for this. I think that was said in the Lee Daniels article, that she and her mother sold their movie rights for this, but they didn't want anything to do with the Zach Bagans documentary. So I thought that was really, really interesting. If I were going to tell you how to watch it in order, what I would do is watch it exactly the way that I did. I watched the movie, The Deliverance, and I went into it really not knowing anything. And then I watched the interviews on YouTube. You can put in LaToya Ammons, A-M-M-O-N-S, or you can put in, like, The Deliverance, the real story, and it'll come up. And then I would go in and I would watch Demon House. I will tell you, it's scary, but it's not that scary. I mean, at first I was, like, saying prayers and stuff to myself. I was like, protect me. Do I need to get my St. Christopher medal out and my, you know, my spray out to spray all over the house? But it wasn't really that scary. And about halfway through, I just kind of was like scrolling through my phone and I was like, I'm kind of over this. But it was interesting having all of that and knowing all those pieces together, and I watched it all in one night. It's very easy to do. The Deliverance, I thought, was fantastic. For me, it was a 10 out of 10. I loved the movie. I thought it was fantastically done. Andra Day as Ebony is incredible. I mean, probably one of the best acting I have seen in any movie as a leading actress in a movie in a very, very long time. Glenn Close, fantastic. Monique, fantastic in this movie. So fantastic. I would highly, highly recommend this movie. My best friend Tani Jean watched it. She does not love scary movies at all. She loved it as well. And I said to her, I was going to recommend it to you, but I know it's kind of a scary movie. She goes, I wasn't really scared about it. Because it's really more about this family. And that's 100% correct. It's really more about this family. It is about demonic possession. And there are scary moments to it. There are jump scares in this and things like that. But I don't know that I would even call it a horror movie. I mean, it's done so well about talking about this. I just was really, really impressed. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.